Alright, hey, hello everybody. I'm not a YouTuber, but I decided that I wanted to make a few videos here to chronicleize my journey. Um, I am a 31-year-old Canadian male, and I am going through a pretty rough divorce. I wanted to make this video so that anybody who could possibly be in the same situation that I am, and might need to, feel like maybe they're not alone. Um, I'm an egalitarian, so I'm, you know, I believe in equality for all people and all the same. I don't want to get down on feminism or anything like that, but this video is just, it's for anybody who might, share the same kind of emotions I'm going through right now. But in particular, men, there's not a lot of resources or a lot of compassion for men, and I wanted to prove that the plight of the straight white male is not always as privileged as some may seem it to be. So, without further ado, I'll give you a little bit of a backstory, and then I'll get into what's going on. So, like I said, I'm a 31-year-old Canadian male. My wife, we're separated now. I'm going to say wife instead of ex-wife just during this video for the sake of not having to constantly correct myself. But my wife is Japanese. We got married in Vancouver in 2009, and I'm from Ontario, a place called London that's near Toronto. When we got married, I was starting school for accounting and payroll certificate in college. Now, just after I graduated from school with my certificate, her work visa expired, and we were applying for her spousal visa in Canada. Now, Canadian immigration kind of sucks, so it took like 2 years before she actually got that. And if anybody's ever lived in Vancouver, they know it's crazy expensive. So we elected to move, to my hometown so that we could afford to live basically off of a one-person salary. So that's what we did. While we were in Canada, her father was diagnosed with a bad case of acute leukemia. So we decided to kind of pack up everything and move to Japan to be with her family. Her father passed away 3 years ago, and as a family we sat down and we decided that it would be a good idea for me to go back to Canada to get my degree so that I could be a contributor rather than a burden on the family. At this time, her mother didn't have any source of income, so my wife elected to stay in Japan to take care of her mom and family and all that kind of stuff. So they had some sort of income coming in, so they weren't just living off of her father's health insurance or whatever it is that they get, and the money after he passed away. So, in about 6 months after I moved to Canada, I started noticing a shift in our relationship. I want you all to keep in mind that I love my wife immensely. It's not one of those kind of videos or situations where I'm going to call her a bitch and talk bad about her and all that kind of stuff, because it's really not. But there was some complications where we were starting to drift apart. I went to Japan for my Christmas break through school about 2 years ago, and I noticed that she was not really too happy to see her husband after about a year of being separated, even though we chatted on Facebook and on Skype and all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of concerning, to say the least. Through poor judgment, I decided that I wanted to get drunk one night while she was working a night shift and snoop. Now, I was a terrible human being. I did not do what a husband should do, and I broke my wife's trust and evaded her privacy. So I looked at her emails, and I noticed some emails between her and another man, and they were pretty lovey-dovey emails. I questioned her about this. She said that She was just friends with the gentleman, and that it was nothing more than that. So we were fighting, but we started to get better. I went back to Canada after my vacation, and we decided, that we were going to keep going with, the way things were. About 10 months later, around Thanksgiving time, she disappeared for almost a week, and I didn't talk to her. I tried to talk to her. She didn't respond to my messages or anything like that, and I found out that she was going on vacations with this other gentleman. And they weren't just, friends going to Disneyland and then, missing the last train, so they had to stay in a hotel. Like, these were planned vacations. These were hopping on an airplane at 6 o'clock in the morning and flying somewhere for 4 hours and then staying on a beach for 3 or 4 days. That wasn't cool. Now, like I said, I love my wife immensely, so I decided that I wanted to give her another chance. We decided to stay together. We decided to open a business. I was going to Simon Fraser University in Burnaby, BC, for a business degree. And when I graduated, we decided to move back to Japan and start our business together. Once we got back to Japan, I noticed that she still wasn't very receptive of being around me as a husband, and our relationship was more professional than anything. And she continued to see this other gentleman behind my back. So after a little while of this happening, I confronted her and we discussed it, and that was the case, that she was continuing to go to this other gentleman's. There was times where she said she was going to spend the night with her mother, but she actually went and spent the night with this other gentleman. So I did the hardest thing that I ever had to do, and I elected to leave her and leave the situation. But now you have to keep in mind that we started a business together, and this business was pre-revenue, but it was almost there to where we were going to be profitable within the next few months. So she told me that we were going to keep the business, and I agreed, and I decided that I was going to get my own apartment. And through some soul searching, she decided that she no longer wanted to be a part of the business. And without her as part of the business, and without her as my wife, the business crumbles, and I can no longer stay in Japan. So I was pretty upset about this, but I agreed to her wishes. I wanted her just to be happy. The next day, she came and told me that she changed her mind. And by this time, I had already made arrangements. I had made arrangements to stay in this lovely hotel in Narita. I made arrangements to get my airplane ticket to go back to Canada, and I started planning for a business, a home-based business, when I get back to Canada. Now, of all the pain and suffering that she had put me through for the past 3 years, I went through therapy. I don't really have anybody to talk to. I left my friends and family in the Toronto area when I went back to school in Vancouver, or in Burnaby, BC. All the friends that I had out west were people that I had met through her. So I am now going back to Canada alone, without my venture, and with very, very little money. My wife has elected to continue on with the business. The business will be launched and starting to earn some revenue within the next couple of weeks. She's extremely excited about it. She has ignored the fact that we will never see each other again, and I am left going back with nothing, and $15,000 out of pocket for startup costs for a venture that she now owns. Now, as I said, this video is being made to chronicle my experiences. While this is the hardest time I've ever had to go through in my life, and while this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do, I've never been a quitter. I want people to realize that I've never been divorced before. I don't know what to expect for the next few years of my life, but I do know that I'm not going to give up. I do know that I will be happy in the future. I do know that things will get better for me. I hope my wife all the best luck in the world. But I want people who are in similar positions as mine to understand that it's not over. Now, there was a few YouTube videos that I had watched to kind of help me get through this period for the past few days. You know, I've elected to self-destruct and chain smoke and do all that fun stuff. That's never a good idea, but I do know that things will get better as long as you persevere. And that's the thing. I wanted to chronicle this because I wanted to show everybody the start of things turning to shit, and go from depression and self-destruction to survival and thrival. Thrival, is it thrival even a word? Anyways, so I'm going to post videos once a week or so, just to give everybody a little bit of an update of where I'm at, and anybody who watches this that happens to be going through a tough time in their life, a tough divorce, and I started this off with a little bit of an egalitarian, non-feminist type point, but it's really, this is for anybody, because I know men and women, they both feel heartbreak, but it's kind of the stereotype of men that, once they get divorced, they kind of just hop into the bed with anybody who they can, and they get married within a year of getting divorced or whatever. And if that happens, that happens. It is what it is. But I just want everybody to kind of see that even if you are in a rough situation in your life, you will get better. So anyways, I guess thank you very much for watching, and I guess I'll see you in a week or so. Cheers.